This video is going to be a brief overview of emergency equipment inspections, which are an essential piece of any safety program. Whether you use our recommended inspection sheets or one of your own, emergency equipment is always going to be an integral part of the self-inspection. MADA's certified safety program requires a monthly inspection of all departments, emergency equipment being a large part of that. The goal of this short video is to give you some background information on what is expected and hopefully some helpful tips and tricks along the way. As a prerequisite, before you start your inspection, make sure you have your list ready, especially if you're relatively new at this so you don't miss anything. Give yourself enough time to conduct the inspection. You might want to think about scheduling or blocking off a section of time for you to get this done. Walk in a different path or direction each time you do your inspection. That'll help you uncover hazards that you might not have seen the first time before, just by taking a different look at the same items. And take a clean rag with you, and I'll mention a few things you might use that for along your inspection throughout this video. You may have different or additional emergency equipment in your building, but these are some of the most common ones that we find in dealerships. Fire extinguishers, eye wash stations and showers, first aid supplies, AEDs or automated external defibrillators, and emergency lights and illuminated exit signs. Fire extinguisher inspections are relatively straightforward. The first thing we want to look at is adequate signage and clearance. All fire extinguishers should have a prominent sign showing that there's a fire extinguisher there. You should also have clear access to the extinguisher. We always recommend 36 inches of clearance all the way around the extinguisher. Is this always going to be practical or possible? No, but it is something to strive for, and at the very least we want clear access directly to the extinguisher. You also want to check for an adequate charge. Check that the needle of the gauge is in the green, or it says okay if it's a different type of gauge. If it's on the line, we usually say it's okay, but if it's showing red on the opposite side of the needle, it's time to replace that fire extinguisher. Call your vendor and they'll swap it out for you. Check the integrity of the tank and the hose. Make sure there's no dents, dings, rust, holes in the hose, things like that. Wipe the extinguisher down with a rag, that way you don't get dust buildup. That also tells me, as your insurance company, that somebody is looking at these. And then we want to write on the tag when it was inspected by you and you gave it the go-ahead. Every dealership should also have an emergency eye wash station and maybe a shower. Just like your fire extinguishers, you want to make sure you have adequate signage and clearance. Everybody should be able to tell, hey, there's an eye wash station over there. As far as clearance is concerned, 36 inches is the automatic recommendation. Again, that's not always practical or possible, but we do want to strive for as much clearance as possible. The reason for that in this case would be if I have something in my eyes and I can't see, I need to be able to make it to that eye wash station safely without tripping over anything, or I need to help somebody else get to that eye wash station. You need to check for cleanliness. Dealerships are notorious for having filthy eye wash stations, especially if it's attached to a shop sink. Those are going to need to be cleaned more often than your monthly inspection for sure. Clean those as necessary. Always run the eye wash station when you do your inspection. Look at how easily the caps popped off when you activated the handle. Occasionally I'll run into some dealerships that have rubber caps on those that don't necessarily come off very easily. I've got to pull them off myself. So that's something to look out for. Also, you need to make sure there's adequate flow for someone to flush their eyes out. Is there running water, and is that water running clear? Yes, I do open some eye wash stations where it will run brown for a short period of time. Definitely not recommended that you wash your eyes out with that. That's another reason why we want to run these as often as we can. If you're going to do the shower, make sure you take a bucket with you, pop it open briefly, make sure everything runs clear. Write on the tag if everything checks out. First aid kits are often neglected at dealerships. Always check for cleanliness and clean as needed. Remember that somebody might be approaching that first aid kit with an open wound. You definitely don't want them getting infected just for using the first aid kit. You may not need to clean it every time, but check for cleanliness and clean as needed. Check for expiration dates on your antibiotic creams, disinfectants, eye solutions, over-the-counter medications, burn gels, anything like that, because they do expire. You want to make sure those are good to go. You can look at a list of what is minimally required in your first aid kit if you're not sure. Check out OSHA's 29 CFR 1910.266 Appendix A, write that down, and make sure you have everything that is required per OSHA. Even if you have a vendor replenishing your kits, check anyway, make sure they are getting cleaned and make sure that you are stocked up with the basic stuff like the 1x3 Band-Aids. They don't always do a great job, some are better than others. If you're going to have an AED on site, please make sure it is working properly. Check the manufacturer's recommendations on inspection and preventative maintenance. Batteries are notoriously dead whenever I check them in dealerships. Pads that you actually attach to the person, those have expiration dates as well, so make sure those are okay. We recommend storing CPR shields, medical shears, gloves, and other emergency equipment in the bag or nearby to the AEDs. Often whenever you purchase an AED, it's going to come stocked with those, so make sure you're looking at those as well. Make sure those gloves are still in great condition and everything that should be there is still there. And again, if you're going to have them, you better keep them maintained. Emergency lights and illuminated exit signs are very easy to check. If you can't reach them safely from a ladder, step stool, consider relocation, like in the middle of stairwells and things like that. You can usually find somewhere where you don't have to be unsafe, even on a ladder, to get to them. But they all have a test button on the bottom or the side. Press the button, the light should come on. If they don't come on, the batteries likely need replaced, or the light needs replaced. Unfortunately, they don't all use the same batteries. Some use 9 volts, some use other batteries. But document which ones need to be replaced whenever you do your inspection. If you have a vendor that checks these, there's a battery load test they should be able to do for you. Go ahead and inquire about that. In conclusion, take your time and do the inspection right. The more you do it right, the less time it will take to maintain the proper conditions during future inspections. Open your eyes and think outside of the box. There are more things to safety in the workplace than what's on an inspection sheet. Understand that your actions or inactions could save someone from additional pain and suffering or even save their life. Thank you.